without further ado, let's get into the top 10 marketing takeaways from the IFA 2022. All right. First and foremost, my name's Maddie Park. I'm the Director of Marketing for NetSertive. I'm also a multi-unit, multi-brand franchisee with Threshold Brands. It's home services. And previous to my role here, I worked for almost a decade at Threshold as their franchise development marketing person, kind of headed up the team there. So got experience on franchisor, franchisee, and of course, the supplier as well. And a little bit about NetSertive, the shameless plug. We are a marketing provider for multi-location brands, primarily franchises, and in the auto space. We're actually the #1 provider in the auto space. We've managed over $1 billion in spend. We're looking at about 750,000 local leads every year. We've got 2 growing podcasts in the space and are also partners with all the major media and franchising platforms. So we've been around. If you haven't heard from us, definitely reach out. We do localized marketing at scale through proprietary tech. All right, commercial out of the way. Agenda. Here's what we're going through, top 10. And we'll just get into it. Like I said, there is so much to say. So first category, where should your consumer focused marketing spend go right now? Caveat, this will differ by brand or by industry, if you will. For instance, our home services still does well with direct mail. So a couple of things can be switched there. But for the most part, this is where your money for your franchisees should go. On the top, you're going to have a website, and not just any website, but a website that converts. Okay, so this is going to include your landing pages, your franchise development, and your consumer, because you're going to get traffic from both sides. Paid search through primarily Google, but you also can have, Bing and Yahoo in there at a smaller scale. You have to have your social media platforms, retargeting, some display. You've got your referral and your review programs, and then, whatever CRM you're using, your analytics, so that you can dive into that. Secondary, you're going to have layering your direct mail, maybe do some video and CTV. And what I mean by video is money put behind it. So not just I'm taking a video and posting it. All of this is actual dollars going into this platform. And then guerrilla marketing. And then at the pinnacle, or I don't want to say pinnacle because not most important, but the top smaller one should be trade shows and then other print. Of course, you've got those franchisees that are saying, oh, I want to be in the cafe's paper placemats because it's important. Sure, but also not where the majority of your spend should go. So this is going to cover where spends are working right now. Of course, you have radio. Of course, you've got Super Bowl ads. But for us, for our local businesses, for our franchisees, this is the playbook that works. It's continuing to work with now more emphasis on digital and the numbers that we can dig into there. So now that you have that, the next is, all right, who's going to be responsible for this? So at the top, I recommend it either being your franchisor or your preferred vendors. I've done it both ways, whether you have an internal team that's running the social media and by social media, I mean paid programs, not the actual pages, the Google, the SEO, they're controlling the landing pages, or they're using a preferred vendor to do that for them and managing it at the top level. I highly recommend this when you have franchisees that start trying to do it themselves. I always say marketing is rocket science. It is very complex. There's a reason why, my entire life and my entire job is marketing. So to have that fall, especially the most important pieces on your franchisee that are already trying to do all of that stuff, it's kind of a recipe for disaster or not the best ROI you can get. The goal is no wasted ad spend. So why don't you have professionals do that, especially when they have technology that can support it. Obviously, some of you are going to say, well, we can't afford that. We're not big enough. There are, smaller vendors that will work with you. Maybe it's an internal team. There are ways around that without just saying, well, let's put it on the franchisee, and maybe one day we can afford it, because that's an investment that's probably not going to pay out. You want your franchisees to do well, you want your marketing to do well so that you can grow. And this is a place where, you really should be focusing that. Secondary, you've got your direct mail, your guerrilla marketing. So preferred vendors, mostly for either your video and your CTV campaigns, your direct mail, because your franchisees are not going to know the difference between EDM and door-to-door and do all of those routes. So you've got your vendors there. And then guerrilla marketing can really fall on your franchisees. One of the franchises I own is Men in Kilts. So we oftentimes put my toddlers to work, put them in the kilts, take them to Target, and they get so excited to hand out business cards. So of course, stuff like that can fall on your franchisees. Same thing with the final points, trade shows, other print. If they're passionate about it, if they know of a important show in their local area, getting out, shaking hands, doing all of that stuff, that's perfectly fine to fall on them. And it should be encouraged. Two other things to note is that any franchisee implementation should be monitored by franchise coaches. So we'll touch on this again, but every single part of your marketing spend should be held accountable. So if they're doing trade shows, if they're doing the cafe, menus, whatever, there should be, instead of just saying, oh, that's the franchisee spending their money. No, it needs to be monitored. It needs to be coached on. And at least so that we can prove it either works or it doesn't work on the highest level. Secondary, all of the creative should be managed by the franchisor. I know a lot of franchises want to say, oh, we don't have all these complicated rules and we're a nice, fun franchisee, or franchisee friendly system. The more control you have over the creative, the easier life's going to be. Franchisees don't want to make them, and if they do want to make them, they're going to make them regardless. Okay. I have had a franchisee that literally changed our logo to purple because they just liked purple. I was like, our logo's red. I don't know what's going on here. So she's probably going to do that regardless. But for the most people, make it for them, make it easy, and then you're doing less brand governance on your back end. Couple easy ways to manage this brand governance is to have a very simple brand guideline. I see all of these brands with these 50 pages and this and that. Ideally, not ideally, but for the most part, you're not McDonald's. You're not having to build out all of this thing with millions of locations. You just need to tell them, listen, use these colors, use these fonts, and here are the logos. That's what they need. The more complex and stuff they have to read through, they're not going to do it. And they're going to just say, I'll just figure it out myself. So create it simple for them. And then also have a process in which you can govern without having to sleuth on social media and see who's breaking the rules and penalize them. What I mean by that is have a process where if they create something themselves, they need to submit it for approval. If they want something custom that maybe they don't know how to make it, then they can submit a request to have it made. At Made Pro, they were allowed to have 2 custom requests a month so that our internal team was making it and we knew it was going to be, brand guidelines. So some easy steps around there to kind of manage your brand as it expands. I will also say, if you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat and I will answer them after. Just because I'm on the move here. All right, what works in franchise development 2022? This is my sweet spot, so I've done lots of research on this. This is what is working. There is no silver bullet. Trust me when I say that. I have been hounded by my CEO, my previous CEO, and there's got to be something there. Look at all these territories that are being sold to other franchises. What are we not doing? What are we not doing? This is what's working. And let me tell you, it is very easy to go on LinkedIn or go on one of your broker pages and see all of these brands selling all of these territories. And you're thinking, well, what the hell? Why am I not doing that? Please keep in mind that every brand considers a territory, considers a location differently. So for instance, we could have sold one location where another brand considers that 5 territories. So that is very common in the space. So while you're saying, oh, this Mosquito XYZ just sold 23 territories, that could be 2 owners. And that could be equivalent to 1 franchise fee of yours. So try hard not to compare. I know it's difficult, but just to keep that in mind. So first and foremost, in your franchise development marketing, you need to have happy franchisees. And I cannot stress this enough. If they're not succeeding in their local markets, they're not going to validate you. And if you don't validate, you're not going to grow. So you have to invest in programs and drive efficiencies that are going to keep them happy if you want your fran dev marketing to succeed and convert. The second biggest thing would be your website and your landing pages. Have a website that works. Send people from your PPC, your SEO, your social media, send them to a landing page where they can then convert. That is going to be your biggest and best place that you're getting the leads that convert. It's the people that come through your website. I will say as well that we'll talk about this in a second, whether it's blended with consumer or completely separate on Fran Dev. This digital presence, your digital footprint, this is you guys online. Okay, so you're not going to show up to Louis Vuitton looking the hot mess and then expecting people to just like throw their money at you. That was a bad example, but you get my point. Clearly spending too much time on TikTok. You got to look the part if you want people to spend there. And that is a big part of having a proper website, a system in which it's taking people through the process where they're educated on the brand, the industry, and wanting to make next steps with you. Next is social media. While this is annoying for franchise brands, I highly recommend just having your social media pages combined with your consumer, because I see a lot of the times that there's a great consumer page and then they want to open a separate franchise page and then it never really gets populated enough. But you got to be where people are, and that's where people are. So whether it's spending money or just simply having a presence there, it needs to be done. We are seeing a lot of great leads coming out of social media now, and it's actually through display ads clicking over into a landing page. So while the in-platform leads simply do not work, same thing with LinkedIn, we are starting to see a nice ROI in terms of click-throughs to a landing page for franchise development opportunities. Obviously, the creative and the copy needs to be tested very well so that you're not getting either the clients or the people that have no money. But it's nice to see people taking action there. Lastly, you're going to need to be on the portal networks, have some display, do some video, but even if the display and video are lower on the importance level for you, the portal networks are super, super important, because I have tested it for years. They do have a halo effect. And by halo effect, I mean, when you are live on the networks, more organic traffic is going to go to your website, whether it's people clicking through or people seeing you and typing it in and going from there. There is a vast majority, or a vast delta that I would see from when we would turn off the portal networks and then the traffic to our website would drop. So they definitely help there. Hold them accountable. If you're not seeing great leads from them, don't be afraid to call your account manager. It took me years to figure it out, but I would say, hey, Franchise Gator, so-and-so brand is not seeing great leads, or we're not getting a lot of them. All of a sudden, a whole bunch would come in. So they definitely have the spend to work with to turn your brands up or down. So make sure to hold them accountable. They're always going to bring in a lot of noise, but again, think of it as a good thing. It's filling your pipeline. The people that don't convert are still getting brand awareness. And again, you're funneling more people into the most important source, which is your website. Next, you've got your broker networks. This is going to be for the more, I like to say established brands, but I know a lot of emerging brands use broker networks. I love the broker networks. My only caveat is that they're very, very expensive. So especially for new brands, if they see that franchise fee come in, they're immediately turning it out and giving it to the broker. So my suggestion is utilize the brokers, especially when you have a very specific geo-targeted area that you want to grow in. Or if you're going to do brokers, you got to go all in. You can't just join the networks and say, well, I'm a part of it. Leads will gonna come. Uh, it took me 3 years to build relationships with these brokers and broker networks, so that they're trusting you with their candidates and their reputation in terms of you closing. Keep in mind now you're also competing with outsourced franchise sales. I'm sure most of you know about Franchise Fastlane, absolutely crushing it in the space. A lot of brokers have said, look, when it comes to a singular brand or Franchise Fastlane, I'm always giving my leads to them. They've got more brands, they've got the people that close. And of course, that comes at an added cost if you're using them as well. So something to keep in mind here when you're thinking, oh, broker the networks are the only way for me to get leads. No, they're really a layer on there. And then lastly, you've got the guerrilla marketing, which is your trade shows, your print campaigns, area takeovers, meaning, billboards or cars, and then big sponsorships, say IFA or multi-unit conference. These, again, they're great if you're really have a specific goal to meet, whether it's I need to sell a location in Vegas, I need to have 2 franchisees in Toronto. But for people who are brands who are looking that they're not as geo-targeted, they've got more areas to grow, I'd say instead of spending this $10,000, $20,000 on these campaigns, funnel that into your digital presence, because you're going to get a lot more bang for your buck, and it's going to come from all over the place, and it's also going to build on itself in terms of your footprint and your SEO. So be mindful of where you're spending your money. While it might seem great to have this big trade show and all of my competitors are there, keep in mind it's in one area. That's where they're going to funnel people to. And also you might get 100 business cards, 200 business cards, but you're not able to really talk to these people or nurture them through the pipeline from the get-go. So the quality of the leads are also, something that is never going to be able to be tested. So keeping that in mind. All right, moving on. I told you guys we're already 20 minutes in, and I am on point number 3. So we're going. Blending franchise development and consumer. First and foremost, you got to build a brand promise that's relevant to your market, forces you to be seen, and can withstand time and competitors. And what I mean is not just, we sell good cars. It's got to be something that's like, we are helping people get to the next phase of their life, something like that. Something that what the speaker had said was like, make them want to tattoo your brand promise or their logo on their body, which sounds ridiculous, but then you think of Harley Davidson. Myself, I was with Made Pro, and like, who's ever going to get Made Pro tattooed on them? Like, seriously. But we had built such a great culture, great people. We are helping people improve their quality of lives. I literally almost got the circle logo tattooed on me on one of the trips because I was like, this is my family and I love them. So I don't care what industry you're in, you can build a brand promise that's like that. If Made Pro can do it with home cleaning toilets, and I'm like, oh, tattoo it on me, you can do it too. So really having that brand promise. Next point is make sure everyone on both the consumer and Fran Dev teams get that. What is the promise? What are we selling? So we are selling home cleaning. We are helping people improve the quality of their lives, get their time back and that transfers to the Fran Dev team, where not only as an owner, you're going to be able to do that, but owning a system that allows you to have that as well. So create that streamlined communication of teamwork and culture. It really shouldn't be, marketing versus sales, consumer versus Fran Dev. This needs to be a cohesive unit. You got to grow as a network, just like growing as a franchise helps the local franchise brands as well, and vice versa. It's the same thing. As the consumer grows, so does the Fran Dev. Look at your brand marketing holistically and don't have your tactics be siloed or purely transactional. For instance, we don't do social media for the franchise side because it doesn't work. No, it does work. You might not transactionally might not produce the exact quality amount of leads that you want. However, you're spreading brand awareness. So all of your tactics are going to be flowed kind of into one. The job for you is to figure out how you can peel the layers apart so that budgets and time allocated, and then of course, the lead flow are being separated on the back end. But holistically, especially if you're using your national advertising fund, you should be using all of the same channels for both, with just different messaging, because obviously the targets are different. And then allocating that time and money to drive the brand awareness and demand that we're talking about on this holistic level, meaning maybe you combine your vendors from your brand dev and your consumer into one. Have one vendor do all of the creative, have one vendor do the website sort of stuff. That way you're getting the same theme, the same messaging, and when you're deploying it, then you're deploying it, tactically within different markets on the same platforms. So that kind of structure is going to allow you to help combine those teams, or at least get more aligned with your consumer brand versus your franchise brand. Don't confuse messaging with the brand itself. And then some tactical things that you can do right away is, if you're really looking to grow on the the franchise development side, maybe you add that to some of your consumer messaging. So like on a direct mail, you said franchise opportunities available. Maybe you add an end slide on a video that's like that. Pay for a portion out of the national ad fund, so that it's fair. But that is, that's something that you can do. A lot of the times, your consumer client is very similar to your franchise client. The only reason we never did that on the threshold side is because we had such protected territories that it seemed not like the best opportunity to sell a made pro through a made pro that already had the owned location. However, as you're expanding with brands and maybe you've got not protected territories, it's definitely something to look into. All right. Franchisee, excuse me, hold on. Franchisee adoption for, excuse me while I choke, hold on. Okay, excuse me. Franchisee adoption for marketing strategies. Our goal here is to get high adoption rates across your franchise. So first and foremost, you got to decide on whether you're having a required or a recommended spend, and you got to penalize or hold up to that. And I don't mean be whipping out the FDD all the time, because you do want to protect your influence versus your power, because you need that trust from your franchise system and your franchisees. So what I mean is, whether it's required or recommended, here's the spend that you got to do to be successful. If it's required and they're not doing that, I say penalize them, because for franchisees, if they don't want to spend money on their business, they're certainly not going to want to spend money on another fee to the franchisor. So when it comes to, I need to spend $2,000 a month on my business, if I don't, I'm going to get fined and I just have to waste more money. They're probably going to use those funds to go into their business. So something along those lines, where it's kind of like what I tell my toddlers. Okay, if you're not going to do what I'm telling you, you're choosing to have discipline. So I'll give them a kind of like, oh, I don't want to choose to be fined, so I'll do this, that sort of thing. Next is, building a strategy and a checklist for execution. Give them every single thing that they have to do and they need to do in order to have a successful marketing program. A lot of the times I think it's, here's a base plan, do with it what you will, have fun with it. The more detailed you can get down to, here's your car magnet, it should be on the right side of your car, whatever that may be. The more detailed you get, one, the more you can hold them accountable. And two, it just becomes a much easier checklist on their millions of things to do. And then on your franchisee coaching side, that's going to allow them as well to make sure that they're following the steps, through the execution, and then also tracking it into the ROI. Third, build a network of vendor and franchisor support. So meaning they need to have weekly calls or monthly calls with their marketing coach, and or business coach, and they can know that that's going to be set up on a recurring basis for them. Give them all the vendors they need. Here's your van wrap vendor. Here's your direct mail vendor. Here's your social media vendor. and stick to that and kind of just keep it all housed in. Of course, you're going to have franchisees that are like, oh, well, my friend or my daughter does social media, let me do that. For the most part, that's going to be a hard no. I need you to follow the vendors we have so that I know that it's going to get done and it's going to get done well. There's a difference between people who can do it and people who can do it well. Of course, there are going to be outliers like myself who was like, nope, I literally do marketing for a living. And of course, you can approve that on a one-by-one basis. But for the most part, stick to your vendors. It's just going to make everyone's life easier and much more trackable. And then I think the most important is incentivize and utilize your peer lighthouses, meaning the people that are early adopters, the people that are the people that are doing well, that are like, all right, cool. Yeah, I'm doing well in this franchise system. Is this what you need me to do? Great. And get them to tell your other franchisees in your system, just as those are the ones that are probably validating for you. Have them encouraged to their other peers through whatever lines of communication you have with them, whether it's a Facebook message or a intranet forum, get them to recommend following the system and doing what you're recommending, because everyone wants to be like them. Everyone wants to make money like them. That's the dream. They probably saw them in their validation process. So they have a very big influence there. It's kind of like, do what your friend says and not what your parents say. And I also say, like, incentivize them to do that, because while it is great for them to have, a franchise system that they're a part of and their community support, at the same time, my husband and I, we take validation calls night and day and then ask to be group leaders. And sometimes it's nice to be like, hey, we're gonna, knock a little bit off of or we're gonna credit your marketing account a little bit this month. We really appreciate that. People like to feel appreciated. It seems obvious, but again, when you're dealing at scale, it's easy to lose sight of those things. And a couple other points I wanted to point out is, for these early adopters, make it a partnership. They should only be investing their time and their effort if it's like a pilot program, and be ready to put your money where your mouth is. If you're asking them to do a new marketing plan with all this new creative, be willing to, cover some of that funds. If don't assume that they need to always be taking on the risk. It's going to help build a higher adoption rate and a higher trust factor. If you're saying, look, I don't want you to lose anything from this. I'm confident that this is going to work. So I'll take the hit on it if it doesn't, and then we'll go from there. But if you're wanting someone to do something and take a risk, they need to fully believe in it, especially if it's, their business and their lifeline. And then lastly, always answer the NIMBY, which is, not in my backyard. That's not going to work. Understand why they might be saying that, where is the vision not aligned there? And then have the data ready to speak to that instead of, nope, this is what we said. We like this. We pulled some people. You got to understand why you always have those outliers or a group of outliers that are going to say that, and be ready to work with them on that. And then lastly, especially for your lighthouses, fix the goofy stuff. Make life easier for the best of the best, and it will trickle down, kind of like a forced multiplier, right? So, we're always having issues with, getting Instagram content. We just can't, I can't develop it out in time. Cool. My internal staff is going to make 4 posts a month, and you guys are going to have those to choose from and just run with it. That's goofy. This is stuff that we can fix. And then it's just going to continue to trickle down. So definitely make life easier for the best of the best, and it'll help you permeate through your network. All right. Changing out legacy marketing strategies. So I really enjoyed this session, and it was talking about, so you've got a long standing marketing plan. A lot of it is, what did we do last year? What did we do last year? And sometimes you got to shake that shit up, especially if maybe your brand's not doing well. Maybe you have stalled growth. Maybe you've got locations in the South that are just not doing as well as the North. So from both the franchisor side and franchisee side, you can't forget that the whole idea of business is to grow. It's easier to get involved in the day-to-day, maybe get lost in the people that need more support. For franchisees, they're getting lost in the got to do pickup, got to do this. I've got 5 staff. I got enough jobs. It's fine. but you guys got to constantly evolve in order to build. Obviously the saying, if you're not building, if you're not growing, you're the other way, whatever. But ideally, a sustainable business, build a sustainable business, build success, contribute to the network. You got to continue growing. And the only way to do that is to continue to refresh your processes and procedures. So, first and foremost is lead with the belief that you're implementing faster and easier solutions. We are actually going through this right now with one of our personal brands. It wasn't doing very well on the Fran Dev side. And so they just unleashed a whole new rebrand, name, everything. And basically what they said is, we're doing this. We tested it. It's going to work. We'll pay for a little bit of it, but welcome to a franchise system. You have to do what we say, and you also can't get out of the FDD. Was not approached well. Had they done this, it would have been much easier to swallow. So leading with the belief that you're implementing faster and easier solutions, stuff that people can understand and be excited about. Yeah, we are going to implement I don't recommend this, but for example, we're going to implement a TikTok strategy because it's working really great and we're getting a ton of leads and this is why it's going to work and here's how it's going to work. That's something that's exciting. And I understand that you guys are trying to be current and, maybe TikTok, you can click a button and it sends all the lead information, whatever it may be, faster, easier, they can understand it, and they also are excited about it. Back these beliefs with collected data and demographic testing. So don't just go with it because your gut or because you see a competitor doing it. There are programs out there that you can run, those focus groups. Get the data, share the data. Okay, what I was told was, no, we tested it with 100 people and it'll work. I was like, bro, I could literally go on TikTok or Instagram and test 100 people right now. No, when you're, spending other people's money, telling them where to go, they need to see the actual numbers, especially if you're changing something that they are very used to. Why is this going to work better? Show me the numbers, show me the report. So definitely back it with your market research and be prepared to get as local as you can with that as well. Just like Christmas campaign, we're not going to send out mailers with snowmen on it for Florida. That's probably just, a more local, very obvious thing to do. So trying to keep those regional aspects in mind. Be sure to answer your franchisee drivers. So what's in it for me? Okay, I'm changing this marketing. What's in it for me aside from you say that I'm going to get more leads or you like this person better or this style of marketing is going to work better? Prove it to me and answer, from a callback from the brand promise level. Why is this going to strengthen the business for our brand and for me locally? Next is that making sure there's all the communication lines and support channels. Here's where you go when you have an issue. Here is your forum, your email, your group leader, this is when we're going to be at convention, any possible area for them to talk peer-to-peer or talk to you. That's just going to really encourage communication, that satisfaction, and that belief that, we're working through this together. We want you to succeed. We're not just telling you to do something. And then again, utilizing your franchisee leaders. Don't be afraid to ask them to pilot programs that might not work. A lot of these franchisees get it. They're entrepreneurs. They want to try it. So testing out programs before you launch it nationwide. I can't stress this enough, especially since I have skin in the game and going through it right now. I don't believe that our franchisor has the personnel or the market backing to launch a completely new rebranded company. I want to believe it, but it's causing a lot of friction. So if they were able to answer these 5 things for me and show it, I would have been all on board. So, kind of live proof as you see it right now. And again, put your money where your mouth is. You're asking me to rebrand my van wraps. Okay, pay for it. I don't want to see my cost per lead go down. I don't want to see my leads go down. I don't want to see my SEO go down. So are you going to comp me or meet me where I am now so that while I'm doing this new thing you're telling me to do, I'm not actually going to lose if you're wrong. Okay. So, giving them the confidence that, okay, if you believe in it so much and you've done all of this research, if you're wrong, I don't want to take the hit for that. So be ready to kind of combat that as well. Okay, we're doing good. And then utilizing this national advertising fund in ways that your franchisees are going to love. So as you know, organic growth, your brand's going to grow organically over time as your locations execute their marketing strategies. It's going to build your digital footprint. And then you're starting to layer on the national advertising for support. It should be utilized annually. It's mandated. If it's not mandated, it should be mandated. If you don't have one yet, and you want to mandate it, you can just, excuse yourself by saying like, nope, we've done so well to this point that this is now what needs to happen, as it does for the majority of franchise organizations. It's built to support your franchisees. So examples, national campaigns, pilot programs, creative development, brand development. These are all things that can be paid for out of the National Advertising Fund. Creating that wow factor. So there's never going to be 100% buy-in from your franchisees for what you choose to spend the NAF on. Different areas have different results, different people. It's like literally putting an entire classroom of teenagers in a theater and saying, what do you want to watch? So that way, because of that, their best bet is to utilize the fund in similar manners to how your franchisees spend their local marketing dollars, which is a multi-prong approach. Okay. So we're not just going to say, I'm going to buy a Super Bowl ad and that's how we use the National Advertising Fund, guys. You're welcome. Because then there's going to be people who will be like, how does that help me locally? And then if you do something hyper localized, or maybe you bring in an internal person to help create those Instagram posts and social media posts, they're going to say, well, I don't like that. That's not fun. So being able to show that you're spreading it around in different areas that help both scale and also localized, and support them is very important. In terms of the wow factor, you can poll the franchise community, see what their biggest need is and get creative. If their biggest need right now is employees, which we see that a lot, okay, we're going to use the brand fund and we're going to say, give your current franchisees a incentive or referral incentive program, and we will match it. So if I'm going to give our pros $100 for every new person they bring on, the brand fund's going to match that. So they're actually going to get $200. Like I said, maybe you're bringing on an internal person that's either helping coach or their specialty is guerrilla marketing. Maybe it is a really great CTV campaign. I cannot say enough about good things about CTV because you're getting the national branding that you want, and it can all be localized. Obviously, you have to use specific vendors for that, and it sort of does that. But the fact that they can have their big, flashy, fun video ad on Hulu or Amazon, all those streaming platforms, and then also have their local number and URL on that, I was like, that's the best of both worlds. They're getting the flash, it's local, and you're also seeing it nationwide. You can also geo-target, so stuff like that where you're not just always saying, okay, well, we're paying our CMO out of the brand fund and also, we're going to run a radio ad. No, there's different ways and that you can use the National Advertising Fund so that they're feeling it locally and also they're getting that kind of big brand splash that they expect out of a National Advertising Fund. All right. And also another thing I made a note of is I always recommend too, if you've got some money in the National Advertising Fund, bring on a PR consultant that can work locally. So whether it's, you can get these people on those small sites, TaskRabbit, not that, but WeWork or whatever, I forget the name of it is, Upwork, that's what it is. Or you're using a bigger firm. Have someone that can dive into major markets, reach out to those local market newspapers and news stations, and start pitching your brand and your story and all of the good things you're doing in the community. That is stuff your franchisees are not going to be experts at. They're also not going to have the time for it. It is grueling hustle work, but when they start getting features, that's important. So if you can pay for that out of the brand fund and get localized PR for your franchisees on a national level, that's going to be great. We did that with Made Pro during coronavirus. I was literally calling every news station night and day, and we ended up getting tons of features, and we saw a huge lift in traffic just from those specific like ABC Boston or NBC Chicago, those little features, because it goes a long way. They're all going to share it. They're feeling it in their local brand. And then also from the top level, they're using, your URLs and stuff like that. So also a hot tip that I think will work really well and they'll be excited about. Marketing for quality employees. So this was a really great session. I really enjoyed listening to it because, again, I have skin in the game. We have a cleaning company, a couple of them, and the turnover is insane. I can't even get my own house cleaned right now because the turnover is so crazy. So here's your playbook for getting some good employees. So I'll go through this. And then I just want to start here, though, analyzing the data and be careful of overflowing the top of the funnel. So the problem right now, obviously, there is not enough people that want to work. Where did they all go? I don't know. I don't know why it's not working. But my point being is that you have to balance your leads, your client leads, and your employees. Obviously, you never want to turn down work. However, if you flood the funnel with, as many employees as you can get and try to hire as quickly as possible so that you don't have to turn down work, it's actually going to have a negative effect, not only in, turnover and costs for, having to retrain and all of that, but if you do that and you get bad employees and your customers have bad first experiences with them, they're never coming back. Instead of saying, hey, we're not taking on new clients right now. It's just, we don't have enough people working for us, but when they do work for us, we will reach back out and we would love to give you, a coupon of % off for your patients. We really appreciate you reaching out to a small business. They're more apt to do business with you then than having a terrible experience and then, you trying to win them back. Why would I trust you now? No, absolutely not. So be careful with overflowing the funnel so that you don't have to turn down work, especially if it's not a quality employee. So next is, surveying your current employees. Why do you want to work for us? Why did you stay? What are their personality traits like? Where did they come from? Will they refer you to your friends? And if they won't, why? Maybe they didn't enjoy the training process. Maybe you're not paying enough. Maybe, they need transportation costs. Those are something you can fix. Obviously, everyone knows, your best network is the best people that work for you in their networks. So survey the shit out of them and find out what you can do to get their networks. Obviously, once you're starting to get their networks, you're going to get even more like-minded people, lookalike audiences. So do that, and do that over again. Have a quick application process and have it schedule automatic interviews. This will vary based on, your industry. Obviously, if you're hiring caregivers, you're going to need a lot more background than if you're hiring, someone who does a moving company. So, have a quick application process and see if you can dabble in sort of the automatic interviews or flash interviews, something so that they're continuing to be pushed through the pipeline. Quick to job and quick to culture. Don't set them through a 2-week training. Even if you need it, can you shorten it? Can you make it like a flex sort of training, whether in the field and also getting trained at the same time? People don't want to wait. There's too many options out there. They don't want to wait. And the same thing is quick to culture. So instead of spending all this time on this is how much you get paid and this is how much your health benefits are and this is your schedule, while that is part of the job and it should be communicated, don't make that the primary focus. Instead, make the focus of congrats, now you're in the family. You are now helping, take care of people's loved ones. This is why you're important. This is why we built the business. We're so proud to have you in our community. So making them feel very part of the culture and buying into that brand promise from the get, instead of just for the first week, 2 weeks, 2 months being like, oh, this is where I work because I get this much money. And then eventually when they spend their time in there enough, they start to feel it. Make them feel it from the beginning. Have referral bonuses and review bonuses. So referral bonuses speaks for itself. Bring in some good people, we're going to bonus you out. Maybe the NAF will match it. You never know. And also review bonuses. People want to work for good places. So I don't even know if this is legal or like morally legal, but like, hey, can you, if you love working here, leave a great review for us on Glassdoor, or, send it out on, on our Facebook reviews that, I love working here. This is a great place to work. Or maybe you have them fill out one of the best places to work surveys in your area. And then, bonus them or buy them lunch or have a team lunch to celebrate it. Do some sort of incentive there to get out that, you're a great person to work for. More on the NAF is shifting your SEO spend. So if you can take a portion of your SEO spend and do it for a hiring ad instead of, a client ad, pay for it out of the brand fund. And then that's going to help everyone kind of raise the C, if you will. Capitalize on tips if you're in that sort of industry, or something that's alike to tips if you're not in a tipping industry. This is a great way to compensate for or compete with companies that are paying their workers $30 an hour. Give your employees and your clients an easy way to reward the work that they're doing that doesn't necessarily have to come out of your pocket, whether that's an app or, accepting Venmo or something. I know legality and financially that can be difficult. Or maybe it's just a email boost. Hey, don't forget to tip your person. That's going to, help produce that. There are artificial intelligence support for pipeline nurturing. Again, what I like to say is you can't, just as an employee, you can't just like set them free without any training and expect them to do a great job. You can't do that with marketing and not nurture it and expect it to do well. Same thing with your employees. For an example, when Facebook first came out with their job ads, we did that and we'd see a huge influx. And then we had the franchises that were responding right away, very interactive in that sort of messaging platform on Facebook with the jobs, and they were getting people in and they were hiring them. And then I had a franchisee reach out and go, this doesn't work. Maddie, this doesn't work. This doesn't work. And then I look and he was expecting them to apply and then show up on their own because he had a canned response that said interview times are at this address and this time. If they had a question like, oh, my car broke down, can I come tomorrow instead, or this or that? He just was ignoring it all and just expecting people to show up at their own free will. No, people are divas now. They want to be customer service even when they're looking for a job, even when they're looking for a cleaning job or a moving job. They want to feel that they're going to be taken care of, that they have lines of communication. So you have to nurture your employees through the pipeline. That can be a big ask, especially for business owners. So there are AI supports that can do that. The session said that the Starbucks, it works really well for them. However, AI might not work for, a caregiving business. So definitely look at your options out there, but something to think about. Raising your prices to increase your wages. A lot of people don't want to raise their prices. They think they're going to lose too many clients. They have to keep raising their wages or prices. But if you want to compete, you got to raise those wages, especially if you haven't in a while. And then to make up for that delta, you got to raise your prices. There's a lot of marketing templates out there that can explain how to send that messaging out to your clients. But I think as franchisors, for the most part, we understand that the people that are not willing to pay are probably not the best clients you have. And in this kind of pandemic virtual world, people are understanding that now. You guys are not alone in having issues in hiring for employees. This is a nationwide thing. People get it and are probably seeing it in their own business personally as well. We already went over the overflowing of the funnel. Oh my God, I need to go faster. Monitor where you're putting your job applications. Obviously, if you send them all to LinkedIn and you're looking for waitresses, that's probably not the best platform. So monitor where you're putting your applications if you want to see a good return. And don't be afraid to be creative with it. You can hang those like paper pieces in laundromats. You can boost on Glassdoor, use Facebook, use all of the forums you have, but just be cautious and mindful about where you're putting them and what you're expecting to get out of them. Utilize PR in your area. Again, what's in this for me? Join our company. We're so great and we love you and we're awesome and this and that. Well, what are they getting? I switched headlines from join a company that you have career progression and a family of people to join and make up to 500 a week. And it was like night and day, the amount of employees we were getting. Now, yes, it could be argued about the quality, but again, being mindful of that messaging in terms of speaking to people who you want to work for you. It's not all about you, it's about them. What are they going to get out of it? And don't be afraid to have turnover. Turnover is good. Turnover shows you that things are working, things are not working, where you need to put different people. Obviously, you don't want this attrition and turnover to be the vast majority, but it's okay to have turnover because that's how you ensure that you're going to get the best people. All right, moving on. Understanding what drives ROI. Okay, we're on 8. So we're on 8 and I got 7 minutes. I'm going to go real fast. ROI, profit. That's what ROI is. There's so many different levels in ROI, but that's profit. That's what we're going for your franchisees, for the franchisors, and for whatever big money partners you have, they want profit. First, have a clear product and service. Don't have a service that's just kind of messy, not understanding, what do you guys do again? No, we groom dogs. Clear. Have a creative that differentiates. So I'm sure you've all gotten a Val pack in the mail at some point. You see those ones that have a million words on them and all these discounts and phone numbers. And then there's one that's like, your dog is dirty, we clean them. That might not differentiate, but again, my point being is have creative that works, that's clear, and ideally, uses your brand promise to differentiate you. Implement those into multiple marketing outlets, let that message disseminate. And then comes the big part is collecting data and understanding your cost per acquisition. So how much are you willing to spend to get a new client, to get a new franchise location? From that, dig into the numbers and find out, where your quality leads are coming from. You're looking at cost per click, you're looking at conversion rate. Don't just track to track. Don't just have these analytics and continuing to spend in siloed amounts and set amounts over and over again. Dig into your numbers and find out, one, what's going to lower your cost per acquisition and what's working so that you can continue to optimize that to do that. And then, take your CPA, line it up against your goals and optimize it for growth. Meaning if people are not converting, then your landing page or your website is poor. If it's poor, it means you've got bad creative or bad copy. So very, high level, look at the red flags and just put out the fire you see instead of saying we're not converting and it must be because our franchisees are not implementing their marketing spend on July 5th. No, you're not converting because you need a better website. Fix it from the top level. And then as you kind of get more granular, you're going to see that cost per acquisition lower. You're going to see conversion rates spike because you're starting to now dig into what truly is going to, magnify and multiply that return on different levels, which ideally will get you to a profit, eliminating the inefficiencies, multiplying, what's the spend that's working, and that's going to turn a bigger profit for you. Kind of very 101 business, but again, sometimes you just got to remind it to keep it simple. Next, outsourcing versus internal. I had a nice chat with Mike Bidwell, the CEO of Neighborly, and I was like, oh yeah, I kind of joined the dark side. I'm a supplier. And he's like, no, like franchisors, we need our agency partners and our suppliers to succeed. You are key to that. So I think that there's a big stigma on don't use or outsourcing. It's not good. It's not trustworthy with your franchisees. That's just simply not true anymore. So there's a couple ways of doing things. One is internal, which is build it, meaning build it versus buy it. You're building it. You're going to keep all the departments in house. You're going to hire at the home office level and they're going to run everything. Then you've got the outsourcers who are just looking for an external company to take over their marketing, take over franchise sales. And that is on the buy it level. What I recommend and what a lot of franchisors recommend is outsource with support. So keep what you want internal, ask yourself what you're comfortable with. And then on the larger tactical things, look to vendors that are professionals in that space, such as digital marketing, or maybe it's your Fran Dev team, or maybe you're the CRM. Utilize the professionals there to simplify, the big tasks that could be huge financial and time undertakings. But then have someone there that's going to manage that relationship. You always need to have someone there that's going to manage your vendors so that you can keep them accountable, you can track, and it becomes a nice cohesive unit into your franchise space, instead of it again being that stereotypical just outsourced vendor that's looking to just like kind of do whatever they want with your most valuable thing, which is your franchisees. So outsourcing with support. And then I like this term that came out of the IFA called right sizing. Franchisors are going to need different types of support at different stages of growth. Just because you didn't outsource to start doesn't mean you can't do it now. Same thing with, internal. As you evolve, changes and needs and franchisees are gonna, it's gonna, evolve with you, and your vendors should do the same. So, don't be afraid to, oh, this was internal, nope, now it's time to outsource, and that sort of thing. And then also, fail fast. If you have a vendor and they suck, cut them. For so long, I see people holding on to vendors because it's easier, it's going to work, or we don't want to deal with the communication with franchisees. They're going to be pissed. No, if it's not working, it's going to become a bigger headache, especially as the more people they work with. So cut it, and then be transparent with your franchisees. Hey, we brought on a vendor, didn't work out in our favor. Let's work together to find a better solution. And we're really hoping that this next person is coming in, or we're going to take it internal. But kind of owning that, yeah, we dropped the ball, we're sorry, but we're going to fix it. That's much better than trying to make a bad relationship with a vendor last longer just because you're afraid of the blowback. The blowback's going to be bigger if you're working with someone that just isn't right for your brand. All right. Lastly, oh my God, I have 1 minute. AI and marketing, what's coming next? So changing the mindset from human versus machine to human plus machine. Machines identify, automate, and align, and they can do it quickly. I think they can build out content, they can make these reports. And that is all something that we should be taking advantage of, especially if you really try to force it not on your company. No, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. People first, people first. Your competitors and other people in the market are going to do that. So this is something that you're going to have to do. But again, it doesn't have to be this big virtual robot who's like pretending to be a human and doing all your customer service. This can be, tech that automates your spend. This can be tech that is helping automate your call center. So not necessarily AI in terms of a fake robot visual person, but technology that's allowing you to, instead of having to do all that manual labor, now you have to take the data that they give, that it's spitting out, and use your human intelligence and emotional intelligence to sort the data and push it to where it needs to go. Okay, obviously machines do not, at this point, they don't have emotions, they don't feel, they don't know what it's like to invest hundreds of thousands of dollars in a franchise system, or need to teach their kids soccer because they're just like, you need a service that does that. They're never going to understand that emotional feel. That is that human, where you need to take the data, what are they telling me, and where do I now need to push my marketing messaging to do that? And it can automate the push. Okay, but you just need to make the decisions on what's best for your brand and your franchisees based on the information that is now being able to be sorted, not by a human, but by a machine. And that's going to cut down on time, cost, and then also human error. And then if you're afraid, start small. Start small, automate something. Maybe it's a chat bot on your website. Gather feedback, do some research. If you like it, scale it. Scale it into something that works. If you have something like goofy you need to fix, automate. There's programs that can spit out copy. Literally, you put in your points and it will write the email for you. So start small with something like that. And then, maybe eventually, fake visual Maddies are doing these webinars one day, but we're not there yet. It's still small. Now you have to now start combining in your marketing all of the automation that's happening, become part of it, use it to your advantage. And again, don't think of it as machine versus, but what's going to help me do my job better. Okay. That sort of thing. A dishwasher, that's kind of automated. So think of it like that. There is a whole bunch of tactics that are coming out, or vendors that are coming out. That's, AI, LinkedIn people, and things that help you schedule appointments. And yes, there's a ton of vendors out there, and I would love to sit through and, go through each one. But for the sake of time, just know that anything and everything can be automated for your franchise. Start small, fix the inefficiencies, make things easier and faster, and then go from there. And just know that obviously your human intelligence and emotional backing is always going to be what drives the brand. That's what built your brand promise, and that's what's going to be able to, at the end of the day, make it come to life. So we have no time for question and answers. However, if you put questions in the chat, I will answer them via email. I will send all of this stuff to you guys, the recording of me, also choking on my water, the deck and the notes to all of you guys. I really appreciate you coming to this. I know it was a lot of information. And again, I wish you best in your marketing endeavors, and feel free to reach out to myself or NetSertive at any time if you ever want to talk shop. So thanks again, and have a great rest of your day.